Hey there everyone, Captain BEARDZ here, bringing you another Gears 5 video. Let's get it. Alright guys, so similar to my beginner tips video, this is going to be kind of tips for the Lancer. The Lancer is the main weapon you are going to be using in Gears 5, whether that's campaign versus multiplayer escape horde. You're going to see the Lancer everywhere. It's that beautiful weapon that comes with a chainsaw attached to it. And these are going to be 5 tips that you can pretty much apply to your gameplay with the Lancer to make you a much better player overall. So now do note some of these tips, guys. I am going to try to apply them in the gameplay you see, but do understand that the final tip does play a ginormous role in my gameplay. So it's not the best gameplay I could bring to you just because of the whole thing about the Lancer, which I'll go over in my tips here, and hopefully I bring some good gameplay to the table. But anyways, let's get into tip number 1. Tip number 1, guys, is hit those actives. Now understand, guys, that actives on the Nasher, they do not increase the damage or any of that. I'll go into that whole spiel when we get to the Nasher video. But actives on the Lancer, they do increase the rate of fire, and they increase the damage, and it's exponential. When you try to mow somebody down with the Lancer, you can get them down pretty fast. Now when you try to mow them down with a Lancer on an active reload, it's fantastic. It is an overkill. Somebody tries rushing you and you have an active on your Lancer, they're gonna go down in a heartbeat. So if you're about to get in a fight and you see that white little bar on the top completely filled, make sure you're getting ready to hit those actives. Now if you're just chilling in cover, guys, don't be afraid to go ahead and hit that reload animation so you can practice getting on that active line. Get used to doing that so that way when the time comes that you really need to rely on hitting that active, boom, you right bumper it and you hit that active, and you'll be surprised, guys, the damage output when you get that active going. So make sure, tip number 1, guys, hit those actives. Tip number 2, guys, is always choose the high ground. Now this Gears is very special because there are a lot of points on all these maps where you can get the high ground on somebody else, and when you do end up getting that high ground, it is very hard for them to stay in cover because your Lancer will almost hit them all the time. So if you can maneuver yourself, maneuver your character in a fashion that, hey, we're on an even playing field. Where can I move on the map to break that, right? Where can I move on the map so I can be at a higher playing field than him or her? Very easily done in this Gears, because almost every single map in this Gears has that ability to get that high ground. And trust me, guys, if you are maining that Lancer, if you are trying to use that Lancer as your bread and butter, your go-to gun, then you are going to want to make sure you understand the high ground spots on the map and make those spots your best friend. Tip number 2, always choose the high ground. Tip number 3, your nade is your best friend. Now you are going to see in the gameplay that I do try this, and I get it here and there. It's not a consistent thing because, like I said, my playstyle is a little bit different from a Lancer playstyle. But your nade is your best friend, whether that's a smoke or whether that's a flash. If you have your Lancer out and a shotgunner is rushing you, if you can switch over to your flash grenade, hit him with a flash real quick, and then rev up that chainsaw, there is nothing they can do about it for that split second. So it's actually a great technique to do. And if you're trying to rush somebody, if you know somebody's behind a cover and you're trying to rush them and they're just chilling there, you see that they have the Nasher out, they're ready to go on you, you hit them with that flash and then you move in with that chainsaw and you can shred them in half. And it's an absolute beautiful thing to do and a beautiful thing to see. So definitely use those nades. Now, it goes the opposite way too, which is using the smoke grenade, right? If you are being pushed heavily by a bunch of people, you're a Lancer main, and you're being pushed by a bunch of rushers, throw that smoke grenade right underneath you. It's going to explode on impact. It's going to shadow you so that way you can completely escape on out of there. And even then, to that extent, you can throw it right underneath you and then rev up your chainsaw so that way if they're rushing right towards you, they're going to run right into that. Now, that's not always going to work. They're always going to get those shotgun blasts sometimes, so you got to be very careful with that. But either use the nade to escape, find a better cover, or use the flash grenade to be a little bit more aggressive, so you can get a little bit both of those play styles. So tip number 3, your nade is your friend. Tip number 4, if your shotgun game is weak, make the chainsaw your best friend. So this kind of ties into the whole nade thing, but even then it goes further and beyond that, because I know a lot of you players, you're probably like, hey Beards, I get into a shotgun fight and I lose all the time. What do I do? Don't worry, we'll touch on the shotgun, but right now let's worry about that Lancer. If you're getting into those shotgun fights and you're losing all the time, understand Gears of War is, or Gears I should say, is highly based around movement. You can always position yourself to have an advantage over your opponent, or always position yourself to make your opponent have to rush you. And if that's the case, guys, be ready to rev up that chainsaw, because it's almost impossible for them to stop you with that chainsaw revved up, especially if your timing is key. Now do understand, guys, that if you do it a little bit too early and they shoot you, it like jams your chainsaw from revving up. So you got to find your corners, you got to find your angles, hide on walls, all that good stuff. Use your camera to your advantage and maneuver your camera in certain ways that you can see your opponent and you know your opponent cannot see you. And then as soon as your opponent is coming in close, boom, hit them with that chainsaw, and you'll be surprised how much more of a happiness you get when you hit somebody with a chainsaw over when you hit somebody with a shotgun. Getting a kill with a shotgun puts a giant smile on my face, but getting a kill with a chainsaw makes me actually stand up with joy, because it's absolutely fantastic. So tip number 4, guys, if your shotgun game is weak, make that chainsaw your best friend. Find those corners, find those angles, use those nades, and you'll get to work. Anyways, let's move on to the final tip. Tip number 5, and I hope I do not trigger anybody with this one, which is remember, it's a support weapon. Now, I know some of you guys will be like, no, it's not, Beers. So the Lancer is a main weapon. It's a primary weapon. You can use it for everything and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. You definitely can. You can use the Lancer every single which way you want to, because everything I say in my videos is my opinion, but I honestly have to say the Lancer is a support weapon. If you're not really that good with a shotgun and you have a player on your team that is good with the shotgun, follow them. Follow them and stay at a little bit of a distance. And you use your Lancer to chop down people that he's shooting at or he's approaching, and you'll be surprised how much more wins you'll get, because you're helping the team out, because you're using your weapon the way it was intended to be used. Because the Lancer is not intended to sit behind cover and try to get a crap ton of kills and yada yada. No, the Lancer is used to drop that support, to make it difficult for people to pick up power weapons, to make it easier for shotgunners to confirm their kills. Because if a shotgunner keeps moving into that fight and they get that 97, they get that 98%, your one bullet that you hit with your Lancer can make the difference between a kill and your partner being killed. So understand that, guys, that even though you want to look at it as a main primary weapon, the Lancer is a support weapon, and treat it as such, and you will be surprised on how many limbs you're going to get. Because understand, guys, with this Gears also, even shooting an opponent and somebody else killing that opponent is still going to give you a limb. So with that being said, shoot everybody, help everybody out, mark people, use the Lancer like it was intended. And if somebody gets in your face, rev up that chainsaw. Now, the reason why I also say it's a support weapon, guys, is because once you rev up that chainsaw and you got somebody snared into that trap, you're chainsawing them, you're vulnerable. There is nothing you can do. You can't wall bounce out of it. You can't roll out of it. You are stuck there splitting somebody in half. So most likely, if it's a 1v2 situation, guys, you're going to have to try to split up the crowd, or you're going to have to switch over to the shotgun if they come in close. Because if you chainsaw one of them, it's almost a guarantee that the other one is going to obliterate you. So that's why I say tip number 5, remember, it's a support weapon. And remember, guys, these are just my opinions and my tips, the top 5 tips I have for the Lancer. I hope that helps you out, whether you're a new player, intermediate player, or an advanced player. I always like bringing these kind of videos because they actually help me and remind me that, hey, use the weapon like this and you'll be surprised how many W's you can get your team. So hopefully that helped. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, guys, for that Gears 5 content, because all things Gears are coming to this channel, because I am super excited about this game. And like I've said before, and I'll say it again, guys, I am not just a level 33. I am a re-upped level 33, but right now the game is deciding to say, hey, you know what, you're a normal level 33 and you have 0 skill. No. But anyways, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, guys. And like always, hoodie up, get shit done. Peace out.